rings, for slams and stuff to make. And I'm sure that had something to do. It's such a loud, and out of the corner of my eye, like you see something, it's like a car that you see going by real fast on the road. You see that, but you didn't see it. But I saw a flash, and then the bang, and then when we turned around, it was confusing because everything's still really dark, and you were kind of like looking to figure out what, and then you saw Owen, there, and that was when you thought, well, that's weird, man. What's he doing there? Because this isn't, you didn't know he'd be lowered in. They didn't tell us that was what he was going to do. Yeah. You didn't even know that. But he's laying there, and I remember him sitting. He'd land. Apparently, he on the turnbuckle in the corner. And
they were lowering him in. What happened?
And he tried to set up. That's my first image now. I'm looking at him, and I'm starting to gather in what's going on. And a lot of people are still looking. Nobody's holding any signs up because it's dark. Nobody's on TV yet. And you could see him try to set up like a half a setup. Wow. And then he comes back down. Now, of course, he's got the mask on, so you can't see any expressions in his face or anything. But he collapsed, and then when he collapsed, I thought that's not good there. And I didn't understand. I still hadn't put together that he'd fallen from such a great distance yet. Yeah, he didn't get that yet. Guys come out from under the ring all the time in the dark. There's always you don't know. Yeah. But that boom and the amount of dust. I mean, I work with car racing now, and the amount of dust that came out from under the ring that was probably embedded into that ring, in the wood, in the plywood, in the padding. It was something, that was the first thing, that's the thing that I remember most vividly, even to this day, was the amount of, just a boom and a dust.
That's crazy. That means you had to have fell hard.
What was that?
So even with a number of slams and hits,
you had to have hit the freaking mat hard as hell. For that. And he was talking about when like the little dust and stuff that's embedded in the mat and the floor, and he talked about how it came up and how he could see it like visibly like come up off the mat. I'm like, bruh, you have to hit it like super hard for that to. Like, bruh, that is hard.
Unbelievable to see that. I've been in wrestling for a long time. You've even seen them where they rigged ring. This was, and I was so close, like you said, you could see the dust particles still in the lighting.
That is crazy.
Oh my gosh, that was a very impactful, whatever it was. Whatever that was hard hit. And then when you put two and two together, like, holy crap, I think he fell from somewhere. And then you realize he's got that harness on. Mm-hmm. And that's in my head.
Did you ever have a moment where you thought that it was maybe part of the show? Did you know right away that it was...
Here's what was strange, man, because it was so loud and everything was so dark, and they were still doing that video that it just seems out of character of any wrestling event I'd ever been at, right? It could have been, like they could have tried doing something that, and it might have, my first thought was he fell from a 20 feet. Like he descended down and then had been hurt. That was my first thought. But when I saw him try to set up, I was like, man, that just doesn't look right. And then the moment, I'm so close, the moment they pulled the mask off, the arena was kind of dark. Then they kind of went with house lights or whatever it was. I don't know what, but when they pulled his mask, when they pulled his, so before we get to that, Jerry the King Lawler, that's the thing I remember the second, him sprinting from his announce position to the other side of the ring and slid in halfway, and he kind of looked and he pushed himself back, and then he climbed up in the ring again, and he was helping the referee, and there were some other people in there, and they were the guys, I think, helping clearing that ring up from the previous match. And all I remember is the King he wasn't running like crazy around, but he ran in, back out, back to the position, and then back in the ring again.
Yeah.
Before he came back and made the announcement, not before he even announced he passed, that, hey, this isn't part of the show and that kind of thing. So people in the crowd, you go back and listen to that announcement, there's some people that think this is still part of it because you don't know. Man, it's a huge arena. This place was sold out, man. It was packed.
That's crazy.
The show this is when it was starting to get good. This is part of the meat of the show, right? Like, the first couple matches were good with Kane and X-Pac and X-Pac and Al Snow and Head and stuff, but we were starting to get into this was going to be the last kind of...
Amazon Halo View is the new way to build healthier habits right from your wrist. Easily check your sleep score, step count, and heart rate, plus start live workouts with a tap. Halo View, another way. Health is better.
Gimmick, kind of, not gimmick, but kind of, one of those early matches to get to the meat of this lineup. And so it wasn't like it wasn't an anticipated match, guys. Like a lot of this was just another match. And there was the Godfather, he'd do his thing, and Owen would do his thing, and somebody would fall down. It was just one of those deals. And so it wasn't like all anticipated. It wasn't like it was a big up. It wasn't built up to that match. That wasn't the main match of the night, So, like I said, when it happened, it was such a strange, everything that was going on right there at the time that like I said, the King, he stood out in my mind that I knew something wasn't right. Because
what was
the announcer doesn't bounce back and forth like that.
Yeah. Did you see, was the King's face any indication?
Yeah.
What was going on, yeah?
Most definitely. It was... You could just tell, man, when he walked, the first time he ran back, and I don't know what he ran back for, but when he came back the second time, his face, just like that, my daughter, it was ashen white, and he had that look of like, what do we do? Like, because to be honest, at this point, they're bagging, they're using the bagger on him and doing compressions, right? Well, now that we know that he died of the aorta probably being separated, those chest compressors were just pushing blood out of, he was just inside of him. He was just, that CPR wasn't going to help. He needed, and they got into the hospital fast. It wasn't like when they stuck around and did it here. They were on him as they were carrying him out.
So what I can imagine is, for a couple minutes that may have felt to you guys like your son watching that for an hour, it may have only been a couple of minutes. What was the general feeling from the people around you? Was there whispers and people saying, what's going on? I think at this point you all become one collective. What's going on? I hope he's safe. Could you tell us a bit about what that feeling was like?
Yeah, so I was there, and like I said before, I love to go to these matches, and man, I'll drop you. I don't get crazy, but man, I like to yell. And right next to me that night was a dad with his 4 kids, and we're talking young kids. And so like I said, I was kind of bummed, man, because I'm not one of those jerk guys who's gonna act a fool all night next to a kid. I mean, I have that much decency, so I toned it down a little bit. But I was ready to. I paid a lot of money for these tickets, so everybody on the lower area, man, was really pumped for this thing, man. And when it happened, because these kids don't know, they know what they see on TV, man, and that's all they know. But when it happened, they're still all kind of in, and they're asking Dad what's going on. And I turned to Dad right when I saw the real paramedics. You know what real paramedics look like?
Yeah.
They got more stuff on their belts and stuff, and a lot of them are carrying real equipment. And
they don't look like indie wrestlers.
Yeah, it's just a different look, and that's when when you see. This is before you saw the X thing that they gave you or something. I don't remember anybody giving that because I think they all knew. Oh my God, this is an X. This they knew for sure this was messed up. But I turned to the kid, Dad, and I told him, "Hey, you need to get your kids taken to the concession stand or the T-shirt because this is a part of the show, man. This is real, and this is not." My wife is a doctor, or a nurse.
Situation like this and say, just think about what it would be like to be up on the road and take the crowd out of it.
Grab your car and join us. Are you
fake here on first down. This time for Smith, and it's intercepted. Picked up by Marshawn Lattimore. And the 49ers are going to have great field position here as this is returned just shy of midfield. So a first interception thrown for him there, and that really not the best decision either.
Not at all, and that's something he did not do in their victory last week. No interceptions in that game, but this defense, they're able to take advantage of an early mistake. Now let's see if they're going to turn it into points.
Well, on first down, they look downfield, and it's complete. Touchdown, 49ers. Devontae Smith, his second touchdown on the season. And the 49ers are within an extra point of tying this.
I've seen how cancer can affect the people I care about. That's why I'm helping protect myself against some cancers. Like certain cancers.
I have the unfortunate responsibility to let everyone know that Owen Hart has died.
Owen Hart, born May 7th, 1965 in Canada, was a member of the famous Hart wrestling family. His father, Stu Hart, taught all the kids to wrestle in the famous dungeon, and two members from the Hart family who would go on to be major superstars in the WWE from that dungeon were Owen Hart and his brother, Bret Hart. Bret Hart had gained major popularity in the WWE and had become the WWE champion. However, in 1997, after the Montreal Screwjob, Bret Hart began their next drive. And so this was the chance for Owen, who had maybe been living under the shadows of his brother Bret, to come out and really emerge as a superstar of his own, and he did that. And so we fast forward to May of 1999. Owen had gone back to using his blue blazer gimmick. And it was at the pay-per-view event Over the Edge on the 23rd of May 1999 where Owen Hart, aka the Blue Blazer, was scheduled to fight the Godfather. For this match, Owen was being lowered down from the top of the arena as part of his gimmick as the Blue Blazer, but things went horribly wrong, and tragically, Owen fell from a height of approximately 78 feet.
Oh my gosh.
To his death. Owen was just 34 years old.
78 feet.
People in the arena didn't know if it was part of the show or not, or part of the storyline, but everyone soon found out pretty quickly that this was real. Several attempts were made to revive Owen, however, tragically, he died due to his injuries. And in this video, guys, we are going to hear from the man who was there, that is Mr. Vince Russo. He is being interviewed by the legendary Rowdy Roddy Piper. And Vince Russo was, of course, there that night. He was writing scripts and storylines for the WWE. He was a major part of all that side of things. And in this interview, he is telling the story of what happened that night in his own words. Let's go check it out.
With all respect, though, I want to, there was a tragedy there, in 99, and just respectfully, but I'd like to get your take on, and again, I just want to get your take as a man on Owen Hart, and I want to be respectful to his family and to you, but I would like to know, we're talking Crash TV, and I understand it. When a territory's down, it's a smart thing to do. You got, it's, sex and rock and roll, a little bit of profanity, and, my wings are as black as anybody else's. And I talk about, I spoke of a little bit earlier about when you're hotshot territory, you gotta, and you agreed, you gotta keep kind of topping yourself, and it is exhausting. Anybody that's ever wrote, if they never wrote television, they have no idea how many hours, and then when you leave the guys, you're still thinking about it in your head. So, I respect that. But in a endeavor to keep things moving,
idea to have Owen kind of like fly down into the ring. Could you just like start from A and just explain that to me? Being respectful. I'm not.
No, I'm right. I know because, and we spoke about this briefly. Roddy, there wasn't an idea. If an idea was never discussed. First of all, we're talking about this was a pay-per-view, so it wasn't Crash TV, it wasn't television. I mean, this was a pay-per-view, and as you know, pay-per-view is that's where you really pay off the wrestling and you give them the long that they want to see, that they.
But television is the one that, what you did on TV last is what makes that pay-per-view draw.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Roddy, the pay-per-view that we're talking about is already written. It's done. We're finished with the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view, me and Ed Ferrara, and Roddy, the pay-per-views, I mean, you know this. I mean, the pay-per-views are a lot easier to write than television shows because it's all wrestling,
Yes.
So Ed Ferrara and myself, the show is done. So I'm in the office by myself. It was probably, man, if I had to guess, Roddy, I'd say it was probably a Wednesday or a Thursday night, and it's late. It's after 6. Not many people in the building. I'm working in my office. I have the format in front of me, and I'm dotting the I's and I'm crossing the T's. All of a sudden, I get a phone call at my desk from a guy that had worked at the WWE for years and years and years, and I know that you know him. His name is Steve Taylor, and he was in charge of building operations for decades. At the WWE, he was there from the early days. So I have the show in front of me. Steve Taylor calls me, and Steve says, "Listen, Vince," he goes, the rigging crew that repelled Sting, they want to come to our pay-per-view on Sunday to show us, what they can offer the WWE. He goes, "Is there anything they could do?" So, at that point, I'm like, "Well, Steve, let me take a look." So I go to my format, and I'm looking up and down the format, seeing if there's anything these guys could possibly do. And then, I just see at this point, I come across, Owen Hart is, as the Blue Blazer, is wrestling the Godfather that night. So now I'm thinking, okay, these are the guys that repel Sting. They want to come and show the WWE what they can do for them. Why not give Owen a grand entrance? If they can repel Sting, if they can repel Owen, like they repel Sting, and it'll be a great entrance for Owen. It'll be good for Owen. Why not suggest that? So that's exactly what I did. I said, "Well, Steve," I said, "there's this one part in the show." I said, "Owen's the Blue Blazer." I said, if they want to work on his entrance, that'll be something cool to give to Owen, see if they're interested in doing that, and I basically left it at that.
Okay.
So my point is, Roddy, it was never originally written into the show. It was not something we discussed. It was not something that was important to the show. It's not something we planned on doing. It was this one phone call that triggered the conversation.
So it didn't get a lot of attention.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, Owen Hart, I was told, was afraid of heights. He had a problem. He didn't really want to do this piece of business.
Man.
Did you try the rigging before? Did whoever these guys are, whatever, did they test it out with Owen? And again, these are things I've been told, and I'm looking for the truth.
Well, Owen, I mean, Roddy, I can tell you this. Okay, and Roddy, if you want me to go through my drawers here and find the Bible and put my right hand on it, I gladly will.
We're talking like men.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Roddy, you have to understand, okay? I don't know, without a shadow of a doubt, and you knew Owen. You couldn't not love Owen if you know. It's that simple. If there was one person that didn't get along with Owen, then I suggest you take a long look in the mirror. Something is wrong with you.
Absolutely.
That's the type of man. So, he was Owen Hart. And this is a conversation, too, Roddy, and I wish we had a little bit of more time, but I'm going to bring this up, too, because this was
I'm
a
going
part
to
of
give you
it.
the time. Let's take the time. You know, with all let's get something done. With all due respect, it's important not only to the business, but it's just important to the people that were around. I'm here. Let's go through the whole damn thing to the WCW and.
I want to get out. Okay. All right. So my point is this: I love the man. I love him. It was a joy to work with. Okay, true. If Owen Hart would have me at any time, I'm afraid of heights. I really don't want to do this. I feel uncomfortable. Roddy, end of story.
Was it possible he could have said it to someone else?
He got the place to scream and career.
Download the Domino's app today and become a piece of the pie reward. Remember to earn points toward free pizza.
Absolutely. No question.
Trying not to make waves sometimes, you don't want to really go for the establishment. You kind of like, do this.
Well, Roddy, can I tell you what I think is the flaw in that story, to be honest with you?
Go ahead.
Okay, Roddy, he never said a word to me. As a matter of fact, Roddy, let me just go forward with the story, then I'm going to back it up.
Sure.
I saw Owen after they did the test run. I saw him. He was in the jumpsuit. He was at the coffee urn getting a cup of coffee. He had already practiced it during the day. So, I said, getting coffee. I go over there, I'm getting coffee. So, of course, Owen, how'd everything go? Everything went great, no problem. And can you do me one favor? I said, well, whatever you want, Owen. He goes, listen, right now, the way it's written, my entrance is second after The Godfather. He said, Vince, if you do it that way, and The Godfather's already in the ring, when I'm coming down for the rappel, that'll be like a pinata. Godfather should be able to beat the crap out of me while I'm getting my harness off. And I said, well, yeah, I said, you're dead on. Absolutely right. No problem. No problem. Owen will change the entrances. You'll come first. No problem. No problem. End of conversation. Okay.
Gotcha.
Well, right. Let's tell you one more thing because I think this is vital. Now, when you say to me, could he have told somebody else? Roddy, here's the thing. Okay. There was one instance. Okay, if you remember, and you probably don't, bro. I mean, you've been through a billion angles in your life. But the angle was, a couple. The angle was, Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart were tag team partners, and Deborah was involved in at the time. Okay. One of the things I suggested to Owen, prior to this day, was Owen. We want you to have a crush on Deborah because we thought it would be funny for an Owen Hart to kind of like have a schoolboy crush. And, here's Deborah, this voluptuous women, and, there's, good old squeaky clean Owen Hart. We just thought it would have been entertaining. Okay? When I pitched it to Owen, he said to me, Vince, he said, please, even though I know this isn't work, even though I know it's a story, Martha would be extremely upset with that. That's true. So he told me he had a problem. His wife told me he had a problem with that storyline. So, right then and there, I said, Owen, end of story, done. You're not comfortable with it. Wife's not comfortable with it. It was just an idea. If you don't want to do it, then we'll figure out something else to do. End of story. And Roddy, here's the thing, and you'll understand this, Roddy, and I'm glad we're talking about this, and I'm glad I'm talking to somebody who has been, just prominent in the business for so long. Roddy, I can tell you, okay, as a television writer for 3 different companies, and, I wrote from like 95 to 2012, whatever it was, I never, ever made any talent do anything that they were uncomfortable doing. If somebody said, I don't like that, I'm not comfortable, blah, 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 we could say, Roddy, here's the problem. There's still that psychology in the business that if one of the boys, says that they don't like an idea or that they feel uncomfortable doing something, that they're going to lose their spot. They're going to be punished.
That's a very real, paranoid subject. It's very real, that threat. Because I want to say this.
Gas station, coffee, cook, bull. I told him I'm just a street nigga who rap, I ain't that special. Make sure that she looks proper, I'ma lash and French kiss her. She reach back when I'm hitting her and put claws on them balls. While I let her come all my
And I appreciate what you're saying, that Owen came to you, because let me just show you the way that I think is if it was me, they wanted me to do this, and I went to the office and was talking with you, and I'm going, listen, you know, my wife, I'm going to myself. So I've already turned one angle down. And you gotta go. You gotta go. They'll just fire your boom like that. What? It doesn't matter. It's business to them. And so if I'm going along and one possession, you know, then you're afraid for your spot, you're afraid for your job, because, you know, they use that and have for years.
So very interesting listening there, and we'll get to part 2 here in just a moment. Russo talking about how he would never make a talent do something that they didn't want to do, and how Owen Hart had actually turned down an angle that he didn't want to do, telling Russo he didn't want to do that thing with Deborah because it would offend his wife. But then we've got Roddy Piper digging just a bit deeper here, stating to Russo how if a wrestler turns down one angle, they may feel that they can't turn down a second angle. In other words, alluding to this fall from the rafters. Piper just suggesting possibly that Owen thought he may have had to have done it after declining that storyline with Deborah. That is what Piper is alluding to here, or just asking about at least. So let's get back to it, guys, with Roddy Piper and Vince Russo.
Roddy, can I tell you this, Roddy? And
anything you want.
Yeah, and Roddy, I swear to you, this is the God honest truth. Okay?
All right.
Roddy, all the time that I was writing television, and I'm including, you know, a solid 3 years being connected to Vince McMahon. Okay?
Gotcha.
Roddy, my experience in all 3 companies, okay? I never one time, and this includes my relationship with Vince, I never one time witnessed any performer who was punished in any way, shape, or form, whether it was spot, whether it was money, whether it was to be sent home. I never once experienced one performer who was punished because they spoke up being uncomfortable about an angle, or not liking an angle, or not wanting to do an angle. Never one time in my experience. Now listen,
I know dozens of them.
I know you, and that's what I was just going to say. Roddy, I can't speak for your time because I'm sure like that was a totally different animal. But what I'm saying is, when I was writing, when I was in charge of that, I never experienced one time where somebody said, I don't like that, I'm uncomfortable with that, I don't want to do that,
gotcha.
And they were punished.
Okay, let me just put this in so we're on the same page here. Owen Hart would come from the same school that I come from. But what I'm saying is with Owen, you know, he may not have wanted to do but aired to somebody else, another one of maybe his brothers or guys that he rode down the road was like, I really don't want to do this. I'm scared of heights. I don't want to do this. Whatever it is. Boom, he's up. That's another take on it. And would I or would he go back to Vince Russo, who maybe he had like a whole lot of respect for, didn't want to displease him, already.
So the big play changes the complexion of things. Here's 1st and 10 just outside the 30. They'll drop to throw. And down he goes. The 49ers get there. Now the Panthers going to signal for their 3rd and final timeout, as the clock will stop with 37 seconds to play in this first half. 2nd and 21, a lot of ground to cover.
Had gone and played a card, hey, my wife's never going to go for this, please. I got enough heat. Can we just... And, then there's like an obligation, because, again, Owen and anybody else that's a real pro is trying to work his way up that ladder, and as he's there, it's your job, your responsibility. Let's take myself. If I'm in the main event, it's my responsibility to fill that arena, because everybody underneath me on the card, they're expecting a good payday. And if I'm not selling it out, I need to be taken out of that spot. At the same time, hey, Rod, you better have your stuff together and sell that out. On the flip side, Vince McMahon, hey, Rod, you better sell it out, because I just put about, $4 million worth of TV time into you. So it just doesn't become quite so black and white from the school I come from. And, I'm going back to with Owen and repelling down.
Well, Roddy,
I'm just talking to you, okay?
Yeah, no, Roddy. Hey, listen. But here's the thing. I respect everything you're saying, and I don't doubt anything you're saying. But here's the thing, Roddy. You have to also, if we're going to look at it from that point of view, which is fair, and I understand, because you just explained to me from a wrestler's point of view, and I totally understand, and I get that. But now you have to look at it from, Vince Russo, the writer
Oh, shoot.
of the show.
I didn't know you ready. I had started another game. I'm in the second quarter.
Not being,
but it's going to be a blowout, so.
In the situation we're in, and in the situation he was in, and not having lived that where, maybe you did something once, you didn't do something once, and you were punished, or, you didn't get...
44-25, second quarter. Should be able to get the blowout thing.
That you guys lived back in that day, which was a different time, right?
Yep, I was blackballed.
Yeah, well, my mindset is completely different. My mindset is, okay, I'm the writer of a television show. But, my job is to write a script. And like I said, Roddy, I just want to remind you and everybody else, this was not originally written. It was never part of the show.
And what do you mean when you say that? You just want to make that note? But it did become one. Why is it not important that it was kind of like an afterthought? Does that mean that it was kind of rushed in there about maybe making it possible for a slip up?
No. It just means that originally when we wrote the show, this was not written as part of the show. The only reason this was written into the show was because that phone call came from Steve Taylor and the rigging crew from WCW wanted to do business with us. That's how it came about. But look, I want to get back to my point anyway. But I understand everything you just explained to me and where Owen is maybe at. I understand where Vince Russo. It's 1998, 1999, whatever it is. I'm the writer of the television show. In this case, a pay-per-view. I've not experienced, what wrestlers have experienced. The only experience I have is, the last season when I'm writing with Vince McMahon. So my mindset is going to be, if there's something written in this show that you're uncomfortable with, man to man, you're just going to tell me you're uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, but I can't. I know, but I can't.
But my point is, I don't know that. I didn't experience what you experienced. All I experienced was I've been working with this for 3 years. Guys that haven't wanted to do certain things, I never saw any of them, get punished or get their push held back or it cost them money. I never witnessed any of that. Therefore, in my mind, if there's something here you're uncomfortable with, you tell me about it. It comes out of the show, and it's just that simple. Just like the scenario did with, with
Oh my gosh, straight put Logan in the game. Prolonging.
So very interesting there how Vince Russo was explaining that part with Owen up in the rafters, that was never originally written into the show. It was never scheduled to happen. It wasn't a big deal, and it didn't even need to happen. And it was just such a tragic event. Another controversy, of course, was would the show stop or would they continue with the show? And it was decided to continue with the show even after Owen had died.
That's
so
crazy.
Another very controversial moment there. So it was just a few weeks after Owen's death that the Hart family sued the WWF over how dangerous and how poorly planned the stunt was, and that the harness system used was defective. After over a year and a half into the case, a settlement was reached which saw the WWF give the Hart family $18 million. Martha Hart, Owen's wife, used that money from the settlement to establish the Owen Hart Foundation. And in his DVD set, Bret Hart said that he wishes he had been with the WWF that night because Owen's accident would never have happened, as he would have discouraged Owen from performing the stunt. A tribute match was held for Owen between Bret Hart and Chris Benoit on WCW Nitro, October 4th, 1999. And the match took place in the same arena in which Owen had fallen to his death, and that was the Kemper Arena in Kansas City.
Oh, wow.
Owen was a husband and a father. He had 2 children, a boy and a girl, and they lost their dad, Owen, at a very young age. Just a totally tragic and avoidable accident, it seemed. It just didn't have to happen at all, right? He just didn't have to go up in the rafters, but hindsight is 20/20. As a result of Martha Hart's ill feeling towards the WWE, Owen has never been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame to date, despite many wanting that to happen. Owen is buried in Queen's Park Cemetery in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Thanks for watching, guys. One of the great wrestling tragedies, this one, and something that could have so easily been avoided.
I'm about to join
as I say,
our neighborhood.
is
If you want to join the
and rest in
lobby
peace, Owen
thing.
Hart. Catch you next time, guys. Thanks heaps, guys, for tuning into the video. Be sure to drop a scorpion death drop on that like button and subscribe.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You're going to notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying. And you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360. You can do better. Card is more than 20%.
What's up, baby? Take me out to dinner.
Credit cards, it's not tax deductible. We have the mortgage interest. Well, that is tax deductible. If you owe this debt, you got to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest
Take me out to dinner.
Possible?
Hey, yo. Ariana Grande, what's up, mama?
Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit.
Which is a whole lot more than just about a power outage in South Carolina. This show is very compelling for multiple reasons. And we'll get into those reasons as we travel this very unique journey that I had to live back in 1999.
And hopefully you guys are living with us live tonight on Fight. StarCast is finally here. We've been talking about this for weeks, and the festivities are kicking off tonight. JR will be there, and pretty much everyone else.
I was just going to join you. That's why I just did.
Haven't already. Make plans to join us this weekend in Las Vegas. StarCastOnFight.com is the place, but let's get to the matter at hand. It's Over the Edge, 1999, on May 23rd, which is today, 20 years ago, at the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. And, of course, most people remember this pay-per-view for being the most tragic night in the history of professional wrestling. We lost Owen Hart that night. And, of course, we're going to tell Owen's story. We're going to get there. But to Jim's point, we want to just take a snapshot of what's going on in the World Wrestling Federation at the time and expand upon it. So allow us a little bit of latitude here, and we'll get to the big show. But first, let's talk about what's going on in the company. Glenn Ruth wound up suing the Philadelphia Phillies for $10 million.
On May 23rd, 1999, Over the Edge takes place at Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. The event plays to a sold-out crowd and airs live to hundreds of thousands at home. In preparation for his dramatic entrance, Owen Hart makes his way to the top of the arena.
At night, myself and Mark Henry worked Kane and X-Pac for the tag titles in the first match. And I believe Owen was like the third or fourth match. I remember talking to Kane and X-Pac and seeing Owen walk by. This was before our match.
From the rafters, Owen changes into his blue blazer costume, and the rigging crew readies him for his descent. We were clearing out the ring. I had my left hand on the top rope, and I was kicking debris out of the ring, and I was moving towards the corner. At that time, there was a promo playing on the screen of the blue blazer.
Ooh, the Godfather. Just saying his name makes my blue blood boil.
Hanging in the air over 80 feet above the ring, he waits for his cue.
And then here comes the time for the entrances. And I'm looking at my monitor, looking at my paper, and all of a sudden Lawler gives me the elbow. And I looked up, and I just caught Owen come into my line of vision. A blur.
And I thought I heard a screaming, and then I felt something brush against the side of my head and my shoulder, and at the same time, the top rope that I was holding pulled out of my hand and came back and like jammed my fingers. And I'm thinking in my head, what the heck was that? And when I turned and looked, there was Owen. He was like laying in the ring, like face up, and I just started screaming for help.
I thought he hit the turnbuckle or the ring post because it really sounded sick.
That's when, things kind of went sideways.
The Blue Blazer, as we know, as Owen Hart, was going to make a very spectacular superhero-like entrance from the rafters, and something went terribly wrong here.
I was watching the pay-per-view, as I did at the time, and then they go to Ross and Jerry Lawler said that Owen Hart is out of bad fall, or whatever they said, and we'll keep you posted. I'm like, what? What do you mean?
And they're not showing the ring. They're just panning. Crap, what's going on here? I said, something's wrong.
I was at the gorilla station behind the curtain, and somebody said, Owen fell. Owen just fell. And I went, Owen fell? What? He goes, Owen just fell.
I kept getting these alerts in my headset. We need another update, but I'm not getting any updatable material.
And JR's, filming time on live television while the guy's laying there in the ring dying.
Well, it's one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. This is not your typical wrestling storyline. This is a situation.
I've never seen anything like that. Not on any wrestling program, not on any television program. It's never happened before.
As Jerry Lawler came back, he came through the curtain, and Jerry was white as a ghost, and his words were, I think he's dead. And we're like, who? And he's like, Owen. And then it was just like,
Jerry Lawler back joining me here. King, I was just reiterating the fans.
On the show.
look good at all.
Lawler, his face is in. Like it just.
Oh God.
They will go and pass us to go to the ambulance.
When he was like, man, shut your fat ass up and do it, bitch. I was like, bro, chill.
That's not even I want to bring up my head anymore. That was not what I wanted to say.
Man, get your fat ass up and do it,
And they
bitch.
put him in the ambulance. I remember beating
This guy was like, hey, yo.
when they did wheel him back, he was like blue. And I remember that. And I remember crying too.
They didn't want to stop the show, so Jeff Jarrett, who was real close with Owen, did a promo, and he was in tears. Owen Hart, I'm praying for you, buddy.
Billy, chaos. Kevin Dunn, executive producer, thought that I had been told that what the deal was. And he said, he's dead. And you're back at 10.
Oh, that's just bad. That's bad. Give me that. Knock down. Hey!
Let everyone know that Owen Hart has died.
They said that on air? They said that he died on air.
Took 10 seconds of preparation. Didn't know what to say. And it was a storyline. I got very numb after that night. My hands were shaking, my stomach was hurting.
Bro, if something like that happened, I don't know what I would do. If they said a wrestler died.
When Owen was shit. When Owen was falling, everybody that was there said the last thing that he yelled was, "Look out. A guy's fallen from 100 feet, and he knows he's done. And the last thing he's thinking is, look out, I don't want to hurt you." You know, it was foolish, it was unnecessary, it didn't need to happen.
Michael, I get really excited about teaching our customers at Blue Apron how to discover the wild world of vegetables. Delicata squash is the perfect vegetable. It's really filling and it's incredibly nutritious.
Visit BlueApron.com, BA110 to get $110 off.
After
Knock down, good shot.
funeral, his widow Martha travels to Kansas City to try and piece together the events surrounding her husband's death.
I saw my mom transform into a completely different person. She became a fighter. That means I have to go to Kansas City. I have to see the arena that he plummeted in.
We actually went up on the catwalk.
She needed to see it firsthand. She needed to, as hard as it was, to know. And she had to go and take us so that we would never have to wonder. And we would never grow older thinking, if only I'd known.
I really didn't want to leave any stone unturned, so I consciously
Dang, bro.
chose to go on that catwalk and to walk to the exact spot where he fell. From my understanding, Owen had to make his way down that little catwalk to get to the point where he needed to be. We walked right to the spot, literally right at the top of the arena.
And when I looked over that cliff, well, into the abyss down below, I saw distance between where we were and the ground, and knowing that he went out there. I can't even imagine the fear that he would have been feeling in those final minutes, like those seconds, but still not forfeiting the opportunity to bring us the life that we had. So, ultimate sacrifice.
It was, very disheartening for me to know that that's the last things that he saw, and how hopeless that feeling would have been to know that there's nothing you could do. Your life was over, and you knew it. I have all these nagging suspicions that, Owen was the most cautious person I'd ever known.
Give me that.
He'd never take, any sort of uncalculated risk, and how did this happen? There must be negligence. Like, you know, someone doesn't just fall from the top of an arena and die and something went wrong. Like, something's wrong here.
And so, what evidence did the Kansas City police show you?
They brought everything in and they put it all out on a table, and then we kind of went through everything slowly, and that's the first time that I saw the clip. This is some of the legal documents, and this is actually the clip that held Owen. This is the actual clip. It's a clip meant for the sole use of sailboats, and how it's designed is it's designed to release on load, so when you have a load on it, then it just opens.
Oh, you set me up.
Immediately, because the design is to let the mast down on a sailboat. It's this quick release right here, 6 pounds of pressure to release it to that. That's it. This is what was holding him. This little thing right there. That's it. When I first saw the clip, the very first time, I gasped, and I was so upset. It was just appalling. We looked at statements to really piece together what we felt Owen's last day was like.
Just hours before the Over the Edge pay-per-view event, Owen was approached by the riggers to rehearse the stunt.
They had approached Owen and asked him to do a rehearsal, and then he said, no, it's okay, I got it. Bobby Talbert said, well, but it's a different setup. And so Owen said, okay, to my understanding, they did it. I don't know to this day if they did it with the quick snap shackle or the locking carabiner. I have a sense that it was the locking carabiner because he didn't release himself. The way Owen had been rigged previously, they felt looked a bit clumsy, a bit sloppy, and what they wanted was this like quick release. Like as soon as you hit the ground, you just unrelease and you're ready to go immediately. And so that's what they wanted. It was to save like 2 seconds of the setup. Bobby Talbert should have never been in charge of rigging anybody. He had no experience.
Do you remember what you came to learn were the riggers' final instructions to Owen?
They said, as long as you don't pull this cord, you'll be okay. And he never pulled the cord. After I gathered enough information about what had happened, I was so firm in my belief that there was absolute negligence involved, hand over fist. Everything was pointing in that direction. With my full authority, my legal counsel filed a wrongful death lawsuit against WWF, Vince McMahon, and all others I believe are responsible for my husband's death. I was suing Vince in Kansas City, and he wanted the case moved to Connecticut because in Connecticut, there are no punitive damages awarded. He chose to sue me, the widow, which caused a lot of grief, and on top of it, he was manipulating Owen's family.
There were some people in the family that were for it, and some people that were against it. When the lawsuit came up, I'm sure a lot of shock and trepidation amongst the core Hart family that you can't sue the most powerful man in wrestling because their family life had centered around professional wrestling. And there were still a lot of other people in the family that probably thought that Vince McMahon was going to be good to them in the future.
The Hart family, they were not supportive of my lawsuit against WWF. Some members were silent, and then other ones actively worked against me, stealing my legal documents, giving them to the defense. So they basically had our playbook. So that was very heartbreaking for me, because I said to them, you don't have to support me, but please just don't work against me.
Well, if you're there, work no precautionary measures taken. Why not?
First of all, I resent your tone. I resent your tone, lady, okay? This is a tragic accident.
Her fight for justice was an uphill battle, to say the least, a real David and Goliath story. I do think that the measurable neglect that had to go into something so catastrophic cannot be overlooked. This tragedy is the magnitude at which it's at is because it was completely preventable. This was a guy who was 240 pounds. There could have been a rigging team that knew what they were doing, and they didn't because it was more expensive.
My goal of developing a recipe at Blue Apron is to deliver the most amount of flavor in the least amount of time. Blue Apron recipes teach you techniques to save you time every night of the week.
Visit blueapron.com, DA14, and get up to 14 meals free.
Looking to burn these final 2 minutes away and get out of here with a victory.
The Hart family, by most accounts, are the most influential family involved in the professional wrestling business. Led by Father Stu Hart, who would train and guide many Canadian wrestlers to success in the future with strict discipline and technical wrestling skills, he was considered the best and to be highly respected in the business. Stu would go on to have 12 children, 8 boys who all became professional wrestlers, and 4 girls who would all end up marrying professional wrestlers. This family truly left their mark in the wrestling industry. As the 1990s rolled around, the 8th child, Bret Hart, was in the WWE, known at the time as the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. He was starting to gain a big name for himself, while the youngest of the Hart children, Owen, would soon follow. Owen, however, was given a much less serious superhero storyline where he would wear a mask and cape, hiding his identity, known as the Blue Blazer. He began to gain interest for his unique style, delivering high-flying hours of endless entertainment. Noticing his talent, the WWF dropped the masked gimmick, Owen now using his real name, before entering a storyline feud with his brother Bret, which catapulted his career further. The duo had unforgettable matches together, and Owen was recognized as a truly terrific talent. Most wrestlers would continue working until well into their 40s or 50s, but Owen was an exception, born in 1965, being just 23 years old by the time he joined the WWF. He was completely devoted to his wife Martha and their children. He planned to save up enough money to be able to retire early and be with his family. Being a wrestler, he was on the road most of the year, but often rescheduled flights in order to spend time with his children or wife instead. Well, my contract is up. I'm out of wrestling. I've made plans. I've been smart with my fiscal affairs. Financially, I'll be set. I really want to devote a lot of time to my family. I bought some property on the lake. I plan on doing a lot of boating and fishing. I want to continue to stay in shape. And who knows, I might do 10 weeks a year in Japan. Something just to motivate me to keep in shape. Keep involved a little bit, but not have to deal with the politics, the pressures that are so intense right now. I've paid my dues for 12 years now. If I continue for 5 more, that's 17 years working at a pretty hard clip. I think at that point, my family, my wife and my kids have been compromised enough. I would like to kind of just disappear from wrestling fans and stuff. I don't want to forget the fans of what they've done. They've supported me and stuff, but at the same time, I'd like to I don't want to be hanging on like one of those wrestlers who's 60 years old saying, hey, I'm a wrestler. Let it go. Make your money out of it and get on. Going out and performing, it's an art. I'd like fans to remember me as a guy who would go out and entertain them, give them quality matches, not just the same old garbage every week. He was forever described as a family man, though in the wrestling world he was known for being a prankster, always pulling ribs off people. Nobody ever had a bad word to say about Owen Hart. He truly spread joy and humor everywhere he went.
CoverGirl Clean Fresh Skin Milk, a vegan foundation. Clean Fresh Skin Milk from CoverGirl.
On November the 9th, 1997, Owen was now 33 years old when his brother Bret left the company due to creative differences with WWF chairman Vince McMahon. Vince wanted Bret to lose the championship belt in Montreal, Quebec